Hi, everyone. Welcome in.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Feel free to drop in the chat where you're calling in from. It's always fun to see where different people are calling in from. Maria and I are actually calling in from our office in San Francisco, so excited to see where everyone's at. Nice. South Texas. Hello, Alicia. Nice. San Diego. Jealous of the weather, Jamie. Nice. Awesome. Florida, Texas. Wow. Awesome. Welcome. Keep dropping that in the chat while we just wait a little bit longer for individuals to keep coming in. We'll just wait a little bit longer before we actually get started, but I'd love to just kind of kick off some introductions here with Maria and I. To start, I'll introduce myself. My name's Allison. I'm with the customer success team here at Scribe. Really excited to show a little bit more regarding security, functionality, and how you can really keep your content secure across your team. But happy to pass it to Maria.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maria, also with the customer success team here at Scribe, and very excited to go through our security features.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and actually launch a poll. I know we definitely have some probably varying experience levels here, but would love to go ahead and launch that right now. So you should be able to see a pop-up on your screen. This is just a good way for us to kind of gauge, your experience with Scribe and try to, match that on the call here today. Looks like we got quite a bit of a mix today. We have some newer users as well as some power users and some people who also have, played a little bit around with the tool. So very exciting. I'll go ahead and end that. All right, cool. Well, I'll go ahead and share my screen and get started. All right. So welcome to Scribe Spotlight. This is a newer motion we've actually just started to do. Maybe some of you are familiar with our Scribe 101 webinar, which essentially is a very in-depth, comprehensive overview of, Scribe and the tool in general. Maybe I saw a couple of you who are just, new to the tool. That would also be helpful to join just so you could kind of get an overview and really get a good idea on how to start with the tool. Scribe Spotlight is also lovely for new users as well as individuals who have already got to, sit with Scribe a little bit and they just kind of want to expand on their usage. Feel free throughout that webinar to drop any questions within that Q&A little button at the bottom of the toolbar. Maria and I will try to answer all of your questions. However, at the end, if you happen to get something that wasn't answered, feel free to reach out to success@scribehow.com. Just a quick overview on our agenda today. We're going to do these slides real quick and kind of just overview why you should keep your content secure, as well as show you just the overall functionality Scribe has to offer in terms of security, as well as touch on some best practices and use cases. And then we'll leave some time at the end to allow you guys to maybe try it out yourself, as well as ask any remaining questions. But like I mentioned, feel free to drop them in that little Q&A box whenever one comes up. I always like to quick show this slide, just showing kind of what Scribe does overall. In short, our main goal is to help automatically document and scale how your team's work gets done. And I know a lot of people know us as the software that's going to help you document faster. However, we also excel at a couple of other things like helping you find your answers more easily, as well as ensuring your team's work gets done right. And so what I mean by that is when people start to, strengthen their knowledge base, they see people are able to not only answer their own questions more easily, but they're also able to see consistency really drive up over the course of time just because everyone's kind of starting to follow the same workflow and process. And you might be wondering, okay, why does security matter so much? And I think, overall, Scribe does a really great job of capturing your workflows. And, we obviously want to share this documentation, but we also have to keep in mind sometimes, documentation can be sent out pretty easily in case someone shares a link with someone that's not supposed to, or somehow someone gets access to something they weren't meant to. security is really a top priority with Scribe in general, and we have a lot of different functionality that can kind of help in terms of locking down your content. So we're super excited to go over that today. I'll go ahead and start out with showing you our 3 layers of redaction. So the first one is our smart blur, which I'll go ahead and just do a quick demo of how that works. I'll just go ahead and capture a scribe as normal. And today I'm just going to be doing a very brief workflow of how to change my profile settings on Zoom from my time zone to a different one. Basically, I'll change it to Hawaii because I wish I was in Hawaii right now. San Francisco's a little foggy lately, but I kind of have to come back to a reality check and realize I'm still in Pacific time. I'll go ahead and save that. For new users, this is essentially how Scribe works. Once you hit start capture, it's gonna be nice because you don't really have to do anything on your end except just go about the process as usual. As you can see on this little sidekick, it picked up the key click and interaction with a click target, as well as some descriptions. But in terms of, that redaction, the first layer is our smart blur. So this is really great for those who are wanting to redact sensitive information on a case-by-case basis. If you click this little blur button, out pops the little tabs where you can toggle on and off various settings. So for example, I have quite a bit selected right now. As you can see, we have email addresses. I'll just go ahead and unclick so you can see how well it really redacts information. Anytime you see green, that means it's on. It's going to try to redact those things. So this is helpful if you're familiar with our team-wide settings. Maybe, there's a one-off situation where you need something redacted that you don't typically need to. This is helpful in that case. But I'll go ahead and complete this capture, and it's going to take me to a new tab. And essentially, if I wanted to, see, okay, has everything been redacted that I wanted it to? Obviously, I have pretty lightweight redaction right now, but this is a perfect example here. Anything in a grayed out box here means that it's been redacted. So if you're, maybe finding, actually I have something that I still want to redact, maybe the software missed it, you can actually manually redact something. So you would go ahead and click that pencil icon on the image, and it's going to take you to this little editing functionality. Basically, that second layer of redaction is the redact forever. And what you can do is you can select that and just drag over what you want to redact. So maybe I didn't want my photo on it. You can also delete it, but you can drag over whatever you see fit, which is really nice, again, if you have a one-off situation. To save it, I would just click done, and then it's going to go ahead and blur that on my end. Now for that last form of redaction, which is that third layer, this is our smart privacy screen, also known as our auto redaction. These are actually toggled on the back end. So if you're a system admin on this call, you can control these team-wide settings. So right now I'm in that little system admin setting piece in our dashboard, and I'm on the redaction tab. And as you can see, I have it green, means it's on, and I can go in on the back end and select what I want to redact. Obviously, I got quite a bit selected right now, but if I wanted to, I can click on and off what I think is necessary for my team. I do want to note here it is important that these are team-wide settings, meaning that these aren't just your personal settings and they're going to reflect on everyone in your organization's scribes. So there is such a thing as over-redacting a scribe. So for example, if you have everything clicked like I have now, you may want to just start with a lighter load and then increase it as you go on, because we have those other options like the manual redaction or the smart blur that can kind of combat that in the one-off situation. But as you can see, there's options for personal info, IP details, and some different miscellaneous options too. But I do want to point out that we have country-specific ones, which is really nice. For example, we have a United States one that has the US passport number, but this is another good example. of Canada. We have the Canadian passport number, driver's license number. So depending on your needs, you can kind of go in on the back end and select what you see fit. The last thing I want to point out of these redaction settings is our custom terms. So maybe you have, for example, a company ID number or a personal employee number that, is maybe 4 digits followed by a specific term or phrase, and maybe our general redaction settings don't necessarily cover that. We have the ability to go in and add in custom terms that you can either never redact or you can always redact. So you would have to put in RE2 compatible expressions, and you might be wondering, okay, how am I going to do that? Maybe you've never worked with something like this before. We do have kind of a workaround. If you ask ChatGPT to, lay out some RE2 compatible expressions for this specific number or ID number, and give it a couple of examples, it will spit out some terms that you can add into this box and save. So that's a good workaround if you have something more specific. The last thing I want to go over before I pass it over to Maria is our SSO options as well as our SCIM. So we do have the ability to set up single sign-on, also known as SSO. Maybe you just joined. I know there's a couple of people who just joined today and you're looking to set that up on your end. This is done on those system admin settings, and you would just navigate to that general tab and out pops the enable SSO. It only takes probably like a few minutes to set up, and you could just click setup here. And we also have a scribe on our help center that can kind of walk you through the process, but this just kind of helps with that login and locking down security wise. And then the second thing we also offer is our SCIM provisioning. So this kind of automates the provisioning of users and helps with not only adding and provisioning, as well as deprovisioning, and it kind of just streamlines that process for your users. So if you do have more specific questions, feel free to drop that in the chat. But those are a couple of different ways we can help automate the sign-on process as well as lock down your documentation in terms of, not having it accessible to outside individuals. But I'll go ahead and pass it to Maria, and feel free to drop any questions in that little Q&A box.
Awesome. Thank you, Allison, for going over some really powerful security tools that we have in store at Scribe. I'll quickly share my screen, but in the meantime, if you guys want to take this time to also kind of take all that information in, think about whether or not you have any questions. Again, Allison and I are happy to help answer those. Let's see. All right. So today I will be taking you guys through how to share Scribe securely. And the first thing that I want to mention here is once you create a Scribe, create a page, whatever else, you have the option here to share. And so if you go on the top right hand side here, click share, there are a couple of different ways to share a Scribe. And for our power users, you're already very familiar of the workarounds here. But for new users, I just wanted to showcase what this looks like. So of course, similar to Google or whatever else, you can actually type in specifically who you want to share with. So whether I want to share with Allison, Meg, or whoever else, I can just manually type that here. I can also toggle how I want them to access the Scribe, whether I want them to edit, to view, or to remove them completely. Similarly, if I'm sharing this via link on Slack, on Teams, or whatever, I can also toggle this copy link option. And there's a couple of security options here, whether it's not shared, so that's private to me, if it's only my specific team who wants to view. So my team can have access for this thing if I click SAM General. This means that within an organization, there can be multiple teams. So I can have a team, Allison can have a team, etc. And if I click this, it would just be my team. SAM Demo can access means the entire organization. So my specific team, Allison's specific team, Meg's specific team can have access to the Scribe, or I can toggle on anyone with a link can view. In terms of having access to SAM General, which is team specific, I'll kind of talk you through our options there later on in this demo. But just so you're aware, those are the different ways that you can share. And if you plan on embedding, we typically recommend anyone with the link can view if you are on our base plan. But again, we have a couple of options that I'll gladly walk through a little bit later on. And again, you have the option here to embed. So if you guys are new, what an embed looks like is this. So you're able to really add those specific scribes in a specific view. So whether that's a slide option, a scrolling option, or a video option on any sort of platform that takes iframes. So here at Scribe, we're big Notion users. And so Notion is our kind of repository of all types of documents. If you are an organization that has a public-facing website, I always like to shout out this example from Rutgers. Where anyone with a link can view can be really beneficial is when you embed via your public-facing websites like they did here. And you're really able to see this via their website. Awesome. In terms of sharing, I'm curious if you guys have any questions regarding sharing directly or embedding. Is that the page where you kept all the embed types? Um, this page right here is actually just a demo page. So the platform that we use here is Notion, but you can embed these scribes really anywhere that takes iframes. So again, if you use SharePoint, if you use an internal website, if you use Confluence, we're also compatible in these different platforms. I wanted to give him to log into view. How can I avoid logging into view? Great question, Robin and Jamie. That is also a great question. So Robin, just to address your question, in terms of sharing a page of scribes with someone in your company, I would actually recommend to click anyone with a link can view when you are sharing that specific page. We also have another option for you that I'll go on a little bit later. And then does edit access give ability to someone to share with others? Yes, it does. Great. So the last way you can share is, of course, exporting as a PDF or any other way. And this is a pretty intuitive way of sharing. So if you guys have any questions regarding any of these, we're also happy to answer them. Awesome. So in terms of sharing scribes securely, like I mentioned, we have a couple of other options in our higher tiers, whether it's core, hub, or grid. Again, we're happy to talk to you more about what that looks like. For our higher plans, we have the option here to actually have multiple workspaces. If you're on our base plan, then that means that the only way you can really organize your scribes is through this folder functionality here. And you won't necessarily be able to sanction specific scribes based on a team. If you go here on your on this drop down motion and click settings, if you are a system admin, you'll be able to have access to this. But as you can see here, my organization has multiple teams, which again is within our higher tiers. And the benefit of this is that each team will actually have very separate workspaces. You're able to see only your specific team scribes. Like for example, if I worked in IT, Allison worked in HR, as you know, the IT department, I would probably just want to see only my scribes. I don't really want to see HR scribes. So this is the benefit of having these multiple team options here. And then Robin, you mentioned there that you were looking to share a page of scribes with someone within your company. So I gave you the recommendation of anyone with a link can view, but of course that's not our most secure options here. And that's where our viewers licenses comes in. So if you go here on team management, as you can see, you're able to see how many total seats you have, how many viewers licenses you have, and how many creator licenses you have. If you are on our base plan, you currently only have creator licenses. But if you're in a bigger organization, you want more security, we really recommend you looking at our higher plans to make sure you have those viewers licenses. And the reason that we recommend this is because there's actually a couple of benefits in getting those viewers licenses, right? So Robin, once you share those scribes with different people via link, if you make that accessible to anyone within your organization, that means anyone with that viewer's licenses will be able to view that scribe securely, and it would just be within your organization again. There's a couple of other benefits to viewers licenses in addition to additional security. The second thing is additional insights. So when you're looking at a specific scribe, so say I'm going back to my scribe here, I'm looking at the different views, etc. If I toggle this to anyone with a link in view, then I won't really be able to have those specific insights of who accessed my scribe, who completed it, etc. With viewers licenses, you can really get granular in terms of those insights here. Awesome. Great. And the other part of viewers licenses is if you are the end user, you have access to the Scribe platform, but don't necessarily create it, that end user will be able to have access to a lot of our other features, including Sidekick and Guide Me. So this is perfect. If you guys have really complicated processes, that end user will be able to have that functionality. I know we have some new users here, so I'm going to quickly demo what Guide Me looks like right now. So if you go on a specific scribe here, click this arrow, it'll actually take you straight to where that website that you're wanting to learn about that process is. And as you can see, once that comes up, you're able to see that click target just kind of pop in straight on that screen. And you're able to follow through and go through a specific process. So click settings. Let me go back here. Click settings. And then it just essentially takes you through the different step-by-step processes here, which is really helpful, again, for more complex processes. The other thing that that user will be able to have access to is Sidekick. So say I'm a user and I go on Scribe and I'm like, I don't know how to invite a specific user. I would essentially just open up the browser extension, which I have pinned right here, and click this view 175 docs. And this is our Sidekick. So we're able to really search within our workspace or community scribes in order to kind of pull up a really quick scribe to either change sharing settings, invite a team admin, or whatever else you'd like to do. I know this was a lot of information, so I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions. We have some time here to kind of go over whatever else. And we do have our Q&A functionality, so we always find that super helpful in terms of answering questions live or just via chat. Awesome. Can you show the browser plugin again, the last one? Yes, of course. Let me share my screen. Yeah, so I have that browser extension actually pinned pinned in the toolbar right here so that I have super easy access. Once I click on it, this is what the pop-up looks like. And then in terms of accessing that Sidekick feature that viewers would have access to if you decide to purchase viewers licenses, it would be this button right here. Let's see. Yes, of course. Let's see. And as we wait for more questions, one last thing I wanted to point out, we will be sending a link here to our Trust Center here on the chat. I'll actually just paste it right here so you guys have access to that. But if you have any specific questions about security, this is probably the best place to go to see, um, everything that Scribe is Scribe has. I'd also recommend going to our help center, as that's a really great way to just get extra support there. But yeah, curious if you guys have any other questions. We have a few minutes here. And Allison just sent out the help center link, so be sure to check that out as well asynchronously.
Also, if you might be wondering, if your current plan comes with some of the functionality that we outlined today, feel free to email us in that email I dropped earlier. We're always happy to help clarify.
Amazing. Great. Well, before we wrap up, I do want to showcase a couple of other things that we have in store. So we did new capture releases last week. This week, obviously, we are covering security, and our last 2 weeks are focused on training and onboarding and Scribe and AI. And so if these features are something that's interesting to you, interesting to your coworkers, please feel free to sign up for these, join in the next coming weeks, and we'll have more in store for you guys for October, November, and December if none of these topics are necessarily things that you're interested in. So happy to share this as well. After this call, we'll send you guys a follow-up email with resources and a sign-up link if you're interested in looking more into training and onboarding in AI specifically. Amazing. Thank you all so much for joining. Please feel free to email us if you have any other questions, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Thank
one.
you. Bye.